Because Jain monks are belong to the Nastic sect of the society, and they don't follow the Varna system.
Right. And they don't follow the Vedic system. Nastic doesn't, the word Nastic has a different meaning in India, right? In Indian traditions. It doesn't mean atheist, right? I hope you understand. Atheist is a very Christian Abrahamic idea, one who doesn't believe in God. Interestingly, these people did not believe in creators. Like Jainas don't believe in creator. They don't even Bauddha does not believe in creator. But basically, they don't believe in Vedas. So this rejection of Vedas make them Nastika, right? And so they are considered inauspicious by Rakshas. So what has that got to do with inauspiciousness that Rakshasa uh, gives to that Jain monk? Why do you think he does that? Any reason? What has that not believing in Vedas have to? Why does it become inauspicious for Rakshas? That is my question. Nobody can guess. Even after yesterday's discussion. क्या हुआ? No one can guess. क्यों? I'm asking you to guess. You may be wrong. That's fine. What happened?
Sir, because they are somewhat of an outcast. So, like even in the caste system, Shudras are treated as bad omens or inauspicious, just their touch. Um, so it has got. I think it could have to do very little with reason and just the fact that they are different than what the societal norms are.
See, monk or people who have renounced the world don't have any caste, right? So technically, anyone in Indian civilization, right, who renounces this world and becomes an ascetic, right, does not have caste because that person does not belong to this world. I hope you get what I'm saying. So even if that person is an ascetic of who follows Vedas, that person does not have caste, right? But the reasons are very specific. Anyone else wants to guess? So Jaina doesn't mean he is Shudra or outcast, right? In fact, Mahavir was himself a Kshatriya, right?
No, I don't mean that he is a Shudra or an outcast. I just mean like outcast people are treated. That's why they're treated like that in
See,
a similar way.
not
Like the reasoning
because even if that ascetic was a Vedic following Vedas, then that person would also have no caste. So why would then Jain monk be considered inauspicious? Why not Vedic ascetic? Any other guess? But good attempt. Anyone else? No one? Okay, so here is it. Because Rakshas and Kautilya and all are Vedic Brahmins, right? They are follower of Vedas. They follow Vedic system, and that's why Jaina and Bauddhas are considered. They were called Pakhandis or Vratyas. I don't know if you have heard this term. Have you heard the term Pakhandi? How many of you have
Yes,
just
sir.
heard it? Right, Pakhandi any person
We
who
have
doesn't
heard
believe
it,
in
sir.
the Vedic text or challenges Vedic authority. So they were called Pakhand, and that's why these people were considered inauspicious by Rakshas. Okay. So Rakshas as well as Chanakya are followers of the same system. Interestingly, Mauryan Empire was a great patron of all these panthas or matas, right? Whether it's Jain or Bauddha or Vedika, and they would patronize all these, right? And it's believed that Ashok converted to Buddhism. He's the last big emperor. But right now we are of Mauryan dynasty. But we are talking of the first emperor of Mauryan dynasty, and that is Chandragupta, right? So they are still very much followers of Brahmanism, Vedic Brahmanism. Okay. So that's cultural history for you of the text. If you go to Act 5, 257, and Malay Ketu manages to capture Siddharthaka, but actually Siddharthaka is the person who deliberately wants to get captured for obvious reasons, because he is carrying the letter that Chanakya has written in the first act. How many of you remember this letter over which he put the Rakshasa seal, right? But he got it drafted from Shakat Das. Okay, so this is the letter. And Bhagurayan, who is another, so both Bhagurayan as well as Siddharthaka are actually working for Chanakya, right? So Malay Ketu, who is shocked to find out that Rakshasa was the murderer of his father, not Chanakya, manages to catch this person. So this is what Siddharthaka's letter is. So Bhagurayan reads it. Page 257, right? This is the letter, right? This is in some way a turning point of the play. And there was no term for turning point in Sanskrit plot structure we have discussed, but this is the turning point. The letter goes something like this: greetings. Someone somewhere sends the following message to the most distinguished person. In dismissing our rival, the truthful one has shown himself to be as good as his word. He should now give pleasure by granting our allies, who have already entered into an agreement with him, the price of the agreement as previously promised. They will thus be encouraged to reward their benefactor by making an end to this present protector. We bring this to the truthful one's attention, though he will not have forgotten it. Of the allies in question, some are seeking the enemy's treasury and armed force, others his territories. 3 ornaments sent by the truthful one have been received. We in turn are sending something to support this present letter. this should be accepted and a verbal message received from our trusted messenger Siddhartha. So what does this letter mean? Can anyone tell me? Letter का क्या मतलब है? Guess. Why are you so silent today? क्या हुआ? Not following whatever is going on in the class, please raise your hand and ask me. There is nothing wrong in asking what is going on, or if you're not following something. So, yes, what does this letter mean? Anyone?
So from what I understood, the truthful one, they are portraying the truthful one to be Rakshasa, because the three ornaments that are mentioned, Siddhartha has Rakshasa's ornaments, which Malaiketu had given to him in confidence, out of, yeah.
Right.
So we know that Chanakya had forged this letter. Now, Malaiketu is going to think that Rakshasa has some ploy with Chandragupta.
Correct.
And in dismissing our rival, so probably the rival means Malaiketu.
Right.
Right. So,
and the allies, right? Malaiketu's allies.
And his
so
allies,
it says
yeah.
Of the allies in question, some are seeking the enemy's treasury and armed forces, others his territory. Means they want his territory and treasury. And who is the most distinguished one?
I think Chanakya.
No.
Oh, Chandragupta, to
Exactly.
a most distinguished person.
Because this establishes a kind of conclusive evidence that Rakshas is in touch with Chandragupta officially, with official stamp. But the letter is in a kind of coded form, right? Without revealing the names. That is cleverness of Chanakya. He doesn't openly say that this letter is addressed to Chandragupta. It is coded, right? But the code is anybody's for guess, right? We can guess what this code is. So this cleverness of Chanakya is clear here, right? And you can see that he had imagined this situation, he had plotted this situation in very first act when he got the seal. So you can see how like a clock, right? Efficient clock, his plot seems to be operating. Now, all this sounds very inhuman, right? Because human beings are always prone to errors. But Chanakya makes no errors ever. All his plans succeed and all the plans of the enemies fail. Right? So this is something superhuman about Chanakya. So he also reveals the jewelry. Siddhartha also reveals the jewelry and the letter on page 258. And Siddhartha has a message. Look at page number 259. He says, Your Highness, Minister Rakshas told me to say. Look at this. He reveals it, right? The following 5 princes, close friends of myself, have aligned themselves with you. Chitravarman, Prince of Kuluta, Simmanada, Prince of Malaya, Pushkara Raksha, Lord of Kashmir, Sindhusena, Prince of Sindh, Meghnad, ruler of Persians. Of them, the first 3 seek Malaiketu's territory, the other to his troop of elephant, and just as noble sir, you have pleased me by dismissing Kautilya, you should allow them to the above mentioned request. This was the message. And these 5 people are actually allies of Malaiketu. And this letter says that they have secretly allied with Chanakya, with Chandragupta. So you find that now Rakshas is completely cornered.
Sir, why does Siddharthaka say when Bhagu Rayan asks him, who is this? Who are you supposed to take this letter to? So at first he says, I don't know, and then he's like, you're taking a letter, you scoundrel, and you don't know who to. All right. Who is to hear your message? And then he says, you are. So I didn't understand this.
Page number
258.
Who is to hear your message? You are. Bhagu Rayan says, we are. Now you have arrested me. I don't know what to say. So Bhagu Rayan is angry. Then you shall, Bhasavaka, take him outside and beat him till he talks. All this is going, actually Bhagu Rayan as well as Siddharthaka know that both of them are on Chanakya's side, right? So all this is natak. This is a natak within natak, right? So as he was being beaten, this little box fell out of his pocket. And that box was the letter with the seal. So he's trying to mislead people, Siddhartha, by saying that you are, right? Now that you are arrested. But then he reveals that this letter must be to Chandragupta. And you can see that Malaiketu says that this is the jewelry I gave myself to Rakshas. And this must be the letter to Chandragupta. We'll clear up his doubt. Now he is beaten up and he speaks these things, right? So Siddhartha reveals the real addressee on page 259. Look at the first line. Your Highness, Minister Rakshas told me to take this letter to Chandragupta, right? So they want to create an image. इसकी पिटाई हुई तब उसने रिवील किया. वो टॉर्चर करने के बाद लोग बोलते हैं पुलिस स्टेशन में. So that even that can be forged, right? That can be feigned. So what do you think of these strategies? What comes to your mind? क्या सोच रहे हो ये सब strategies सुन के?
So I think Kautilya knew how Malaiketu was because he immediately lost his trust in Rakshas. So they used these strategies in such a way that Kautilya knew that he would immediately leave all his allies and he would directly try and attempt to attack the others.
Right. So he has a good understanding of his enemies, you can say. Okay. What else comes to your mind? You are right. Anyone else?
Sir, so many things could go wrong. Like, I don't know how everything just falls into place just like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Siddhartha does get captured. Like he does it deliberately, but so many things. How can he say that this is how Malaiketu is going to perceive it, or this is what Rakshasa will do?
He's doing what he is told to do. If you look at Act 1,
yeah, I'm talking about Chanakya only. Like how can he just foretell how things would turn out, because this is such long-term planning. This is probably happening over a period of months.
Everything in his plan is working out correctly. Like
exactly.
Now this is unbelievable, right? What else? You are right, absolutely right. Anyone else? Has anything else come to your mind when you hear all this? It's too good to be true, right? You can say that this infallible kind of planning, immaculate planning is too good to be true. Whatever Rakshas does backfires, and whatever Chanakya does fires in the proper way, right? That makes him almost superhuman character. So you can see how characterization has happened in this play.
And sir, one thing that just came to my mind was we discussed the differences between Western and Indian plays. So they are Indian plays, Sanskrit plays are not very fixated on portraying reality. So
Right.
this is complete fiction. Everyone knows it's fiction.
Right. Right.
So the element of unbelievability is not alien in Sanskrit literature.
Exactly.
It's part
Very,
of it.
very true. Means it's not, and again going back to Aristotle, right? I don't know how much of Aristotle you have covered in your criticism class. How much of Aristotle have you covered? I don't know. But he lays down laws of probability and necessity as the paradigm within which the plot should function. There should be nothing in the play, according to Aristotle, which is improbable, right? Nothing in the play which should be superfluous. But no such dictums exist in Indian Sanskrit poetics, right? There are no such principles at work. Secondly, the whole question of tragedy, right, is secondary in India. In India, you didn't have tragedy. So when we compare, we realize the differences as well. And differences are interesting. What do you think?
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So another thing is that the way Michael Coulson pointed it out that in the plays here, Sanskrit plays, it's more about the characters rather than the uh, other things. Like it's heavily centered on the characters. So that also might be one of the reasons why the actions that happen, they are so they whatever he has planned, it all happens accordingly because you need to know, the audience needs to know how much of an ingenious plan that is and how great is his wit.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
exactly. But more than character, you know what? I think the bhav element is very important. Bhav and rasa. So in Veer Rasa, as I think it was Stuti or Bhargavi, somebody pointed out, Veer Rasa is the prominent rasa in this. So the great competence of Chanakya, right? His virta lies in his immaculate planning and execution of plans, rather than the bravery with the sword, right? And so the whole, we admire Chanakya's shrewdness and how things fall in place. His uh, more than genius-like capabilities, right? So, as somebody had asked in one of the discussions about universal and particular, right? And in Aristotelian metaphysics, the universal is connected to specific, and literature is more important than history because Aristotle says poetry deals with the universals, right? So here it is universal that makes particular rather than other way around. In literature of Aristotelian variety, specific is made universal. But here it seems to be universal that seems to connect to specific. And what is that universal? That is universal for Sanskrit poetic seems to be aesthetic emotion, rasa. Right. So rasa is conferred upon particular situation and characters rather than rasa emerging from situation, right? So the Veer rasa or admiration, adbhut, is also one of the rasa, right? We are wonder-struck by Chanakya's greatness and genius as a planner. But I also feel that my personal reaction to this was, all this is so realistic, means this is what even we don't think of today, that somebody confesses in torture, but that confession itself was scripted to mislead people, for example, right? All these aspects we don't think of very often. So the whole political strategizing is for me something that is relevant even today, right? In a mystery or a detective fiction, whatnot. So in Act 5, we learned, yeah, Bhavya, go ahead.
So I just wanted to further on what you had said about
Go ahead.
the story. It's this trope can also be seen in many of the modern works as well, where everything works like a well-oiled machine. Although in Western storytelling, something goes terribly
Goes
wrong
wrong.
somewhere,
Yeah.
and that's where the whole point of the story is. And
Right.
this is different, but yeah, it's something that I can kind of relate with Sherlock stories, because most of the times his deductions leads him to solving the crime very well. But that would be an oversimplification, I think.
But at the same time, if you look at the detective fiction, the detective character of detective, right? Like Sherlock Holmes. I'm talking of Victorian Sherlock Holmes. I'm not talking of OTT wala new Sherlock Holmes. His power of deduction was almost godlike, right? No human can do that. So, and it never goes wrong. Sherlock Holmes never goes wrong. So something like that.
Yes,
Chanakya never goes wrong.
yes. Just like that.
So this is very plotted thing. So very meticulously plotted story. Okay, on 262 we find that Rakshas discovers that he has been tricked, and he asks Siddhartha. He says, "Yes, last two lines. I let it out when they beat me. It is false, Your Highness. Man who is beaten will say anything." Show him the letter on page 263. Here is the letter. This is the trick by the enemy, Your Highness. And then Malaiketu shows him the jewelry. So he realizes that he has been tricked, including then towards the end of page 263, Siddharth says it was Shakat Das who wrote this letter. So if Shakat Das wrote it, then I wrote it myself, says Rakshas. Malaiketu says, I want to see Shakat Das. To 64. So they compare handwritings of Shakat Das with the letter, and again characters agree. Is his Salilaki. The characters agree, but Shakat Das is my friend, and there is one character at odds. Is it conceivable that Shakat Das remembered his wife and children and forgotten his loyalty to our Lord, eager for transient advantage instead of imperishable glory? What is this imperishable glory and transient advantage? What do you think? क्या है ये?
सर वीर रस का वो element in the play, imperishable glory. That's what the
So what is, you are absolutely right. But what is this imperishable glory?
they're all great ministers and thinking of the greater good for the kingdom.
Right.
So Rakshasa
Talking
says
of Sakat,
if
he's
he
saying,
had, if Shakardas had helped Rakshasa, he would have had that imperishable glory that would never end.
right.
But he thought of the smaller transient advantage
Right.
that is.
Is that, which is the transient advantage, and what is the imperishable glory?
Transient advantage is his family life and protecting his family and his life for now.
Correct.
But it's transient because this could end anytime. Like if Chandragupta changes his mind, he could also decide to punish these people. And imperishable glory would be if Rakshasa is the one who wins in the end.
Or
Then
if he dies in the end, what he means here is that he would be martyr because he would be loyal to the Lord, that is Nanda, right?
yeah.
So he would be martyr for Nanda dynasty, even if Rakshas loses. So he doubts his loyalty, right? So you can see one of the running themes is loyalty versus betrayal. Is one of the very important themes of the play. If you look at page number 265 towards end, right? So he says the enemy's, Rakshas says the enemy's trap is carefully sprung. No use to say it is not my letter. When a seal on it says it's mine. That Sakat Das has broken faith would never be credited. But who would believe that Mauryan Empire could sell his jewels better than admit charge than vulgarly dispute? And then, this is also very interesting, page 266. The Mauryan is my master's son, says Rakshas. So there is also this link that Chandragupta was the son of his master, one-time master. But he would be my benefit. But here I am yours. And so what can I gain to make me so dishonored? And he says, it is the hand of destiny. It is the hand of destiny blighting man's effort. Right? The same that has killed off the kings who would judge a man right. Though servitude means contempt, yet those kings in their love be grateful and wise looked on me as their son. So he is completely caught. So if you look at 267, Malay Ketu asks, why did you kill my father? He says, you must ask fate. Malay Ketu says, ask fate, not Jiv Siddhi the Jain. Rakshas to himself. What is? He is Jiv Siddhi also working for Kautilya. My enemies have made my very heart their own. So he realizes that he is tricked by everyone, right? All his close confidants are actually working for Chanakya. So there is also a sense of admiration here, that enemies have made my very heart their own. Now there is a pun here. By my very heart their own, it means the people who are close to me are now in their side. But it also means my heart is also on their side. I hope you get what I'm saying. So there is an admiration which seems to be concealed here, right? For Chanakya and the enemies. So on page 268, Malay Ketu dismisses Rakshas. He does not kill him. Rakshas, I am not Rakshas the traitor. I am Malay Ketu. Go seek out Chandragupta with all your heart. Why does he say that? Why does Malay Ketu not kill Rakshas? मार सकता था ना? Anyone can guess? Who will tell me? After he is caught, why does Malay Ketu not kill Rakshas? कोई बताएगा? Let me see how smart you are.
Sir, pride could be one of the things ki, you think that you think that you can fool me, by secretly allying with Chandragupta. Now go be with him in open, and I will see all of you in the battlefield. Aisa.
Okay, maybe, but there are
Or
even
he could
more.
have a soft spot for Rakshasa after all this,
But he has
after all
betrayed
this
him
time.
like anything, right? He has betrayed him completely.
Hmm.
He has betrayed him to his enemy. So why does he send him off to Chandragupta? Not kill him. As you say, one aspect may be pride, but there is another reason as well. Which is far more basic.
Sir,
Yeah, go ahead.
sir, like we discussed just now about Rakshasa believing in imperishable glory. So, killing him would mean that he would be martyred, but not killing him would, you know, not save him, but keep him from that martyrdom, and he would ultimately might have to face humiliation.
Okay. Any other reason? Though the line says here Rakshas, I am not Rakshas, the traitor. I am Malay Ketu. So if, as somebody suggested, there is an element of pride in it. And as Dia says, there may be the reason for not making him martyr. Anyone else? Okay. I don't know if you have heard of story of Ashwathama in Mahabharata. How many of you have heard? पांच लोगों ने. So Harsh, Dharma, just tell me that story of Ashwathama. Do you know that story, Harsh?
So, at the end, when Krishna kills us, get his money and tell him that you have to live for 4 yugas. That story,
No, no.
like
In Mahabharata,
Uh,
Mahabharata में क्या होता है? What happens?
Yudhishthir,
What does Ashwathama do?
he, uh, he kills sons of Pandavas.
Correct.
And even the last son, which is in the broom of, uh, I forgot the name of, right, but broom in the broom as well.
Okay. In the womb.
In
Yeah.
the broom.
Yeah. So how is he punished?
Live forever.
Okay. Why not killed off?
Because in Vedas, as we told earlier, that after killing he prap moksha kind of thing. So Krishna punished him.
No. You are close, but not quite. You're going there, but not quite. Anyone else wants to try? Why is Ashwatthama not killed?
Maybe the suffering from that guilt.
No. कौन ट्राई करेगा और?
Sir, I think he was cursed with being immortal, so he has to suffer his life, and the life it wouldn't end. So his suffering with the life would never end, and that was his ultimate punishment for what he did.
ये तो अजीत लायन जैसा हो गया. उसे लिक्विड ऑक्सीजन में डालते हैं, लिक्विड उसे जीने नहीं देगा और ऑक्सीजन मरने नहीं देगा टाइप ऑफ थिंग. So Krishna was not like lion. Maitreyi, no. How can banishment be bigger than death? Okay, here it is. Ashwatthama is not killed because killing Ashwatthama would itself be the worst sin of all kinds. Because Ashwatthama is a Brahmin. ब्रह्म हत्या को सबसे बड़ा पाप माना जाता है. And Krishna doesn't want to commit that. According to the Vedas, according to the Shastras, Brahma Hatya is the most terrible of all bad things you can do. सबसे बड़ा पाप. According to Shastras, not according to me, right? Okay. So that is one basic reason why Rakshas is not killed. And secondly, as somebody said, Malaiketu says that I am not a Rakshas, I am Malaiketu, right? So I am not a traitor like you. You did some good thing for me, I am not going to repay you by evil. So he sends him away. Does that make any sense? How many of you agree with me? ब्रह्म हत्या का पाप नहीं करना है. Okay. Yes. So by the end of Act 5, he decides to save Chandan Das because that is the only thing that is left. Shall I go to hermitage? Austerities will not calm my embittered heart. Follow my lord while the enemy leaves. That is a woman's way. That means it's cowardice. Follow my lord यानी क्या है? Can anyone tell me? Which lord?
The Nandas.
The last Nanda died, right? He was actually killed by Chanakya, last Nanda. And interestingly, Nandas are believed to be of lower caste. सब जगह पे caste क्यों आ जाता है क्यों? It's a hidden subtext of Indian literature. Caste is the hidden subtext. Okay. So going to hermitage is not going to help because it won't calm him. संन्यास लेगा तो शांति नहीं मिलेगी. Follow my lord and go to heaven. Nothing is going to help. Fall on my sword on the foe, that will be ill. And tell me that that Chandan Das must be freed. So he goes out to rescue Chandan Das in Act 6. And Malay Ketu's own expedition against the people that are mentioned in the letter backfire, right? And there is a dissension in his army, which causes him to fall. So Malay Ketu is then captured by his secretary, Bagurayan, because Bagurayan is Chanakya's agent. That's what happens in Act 6. Act 7, enter man carrying a rope, page 272. Firmly twisted on the 6 strands and a noose fashioned from the chain of tactics. Victory to the rope of Kautilya's strategy, waiting to bind the enemy. Here is the place his honor Kautilya heard about from the rat, where his honor has instructed me to meet with Rakshas. Rat would be one of his agents, right? There is Minister Rakshas coming this way with his face covered. I will hide among the trees of this overgrown park and watch where he seats himself. So Rakshas sits there crying. Like a whore frightened by losing her man, Fortune has gone to another's house. And people have followed her like sheep, their loyalty forgotten. You can see loyalty as and destiny, all this is how he looks at the thing. And then leaving her husband, that is loyalty, right? A great emperor of noble birth, Fortune has eloped to the Mauryan, low-born harlot to low-born man. You can see the caste politics here, right? Fortune is goddess of fortune. Who is the goddess of fortune in India?
Goddess Lakshmi.
Right. So Lakshmi has gone, leaving his high-born emperor of noble birth and gone and met with Mauryan, who is a low-born harlot. And then he keeps on weeping. And the man who is carrying a rope is watching him, right? So this is all long Salilaki of Rakshas. So what we will do tomorrow is maybe we can have reading of this last act, 7th act, 7th and 8th, 6th and 7th, I'm sorry. They are not very long. And we will wind up the discussion. Chalega, Kal? What do you say? So like we did for the first 2 acts, let's have a reading of last 2 acts, 6 and 7. Right. So people who have not yet read can take up the lines of a particular character. That's a suggestion. But if there is no one volunteering, then you can continue with the earlier set, because the reading of the play was very interesting. So let's have a reading of Act 6 and 7 tomorrow. Right? And we will wind up discussion on this text tomorrow. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
That you have to say.
Yes, sir.
We have discussed most of the themes, plot, character, background, history. I will just suggest, in case you have essay type questions, what kind of questions will be asked. But you know, in literary studies, you know the questions already. Yes, no? So I suggest somebody should also drop 5 or 6 questions that come to your mind, which can be asked as essay type questions in exams. कौन करेगा ये? प्रॉब्लम विथ लिटरेचर ये है कि उसका क्वेश्चन पेपर पहले ही लीक हो गया होता है, because everybody knows what kind of questions will be asked. So when people fall short of marks, it's usually because they fall short of preparation, not because they don't know what is going to be asked, right? So I want somebody to make a list of questions tomorrow. कौन करेगा ये काम? Who will do that? Bhavya, okay. And someone else can also set more questions if they can think of. And we will have a reading of last 2 acts, 6 or 7. Done? Any question, doubts, so that we can move over to the next unit in the next week? No questions? Nothing to say?